1. Background. I am the second manager of a deli department in a large grocery store. The layout of my department is thus. From the entrance you have about 20 feet of a sandwich bar. Then there's a little counter for a check stand, ends up being important. Then you have our sushi station, our Chinese hot case, the fried food hot case, entrance to the department, and then about 40 feet of fresh-made salads and sliced meat counters. Whole department runs an easy 300 feet along the west wall. The important thing to know is the Chinese food and sushi are not our department. They don't even work for the same company as I do. We work in the same space, but they're a franchise. Thus, at no time do we serve their food or do they serve ours. And as it is unfortunately pertinent to my story, the franchisees are a Burmese immigrant family. Finally, there is a lot of paraphrasing, but this accurately represents the testimony I gave in court. Part 1. The Lady. This all happens during the great toilet paper shortage of 2020. Mostly our customers were great, but everyone was running high stress then. After the head boss leaves, I'm in charge, so I try and hide in the back and do the cooking, only coming out when the front area needs extra hands. Anyways, this day I'm cooking or frying something or other, and I hear commotion in the front. I hate customer service, but I'm really effing good at it, so I head over to see what's going on. There is an angry old lady absolutely losing her shit at the Chinese hot case. I go over to figure out what the problem is. Hello, ma'am, how can I help you?
I want a 2-item combo, half rice chow mein, peppered beef, and orange chicken.
Yes, I remember her exact order. I gestured to Steve, the Chinese department chef. All right then, my partner in crime will be able to help you with that.
Not him, you! Get me my food.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but we're two different departments, but Steve will be more than happy to...
I want you to serve me, not him. Get me my food.
I'm not allowed to cross departments, but Steve will be able to...
I don't want that.
And she used a rather unpleasant Asian slur
To touch my food. Get it for me now.
This goes on for a couple more exchanges. The gist is I try to bring her down. She keeps demanding I help her. So I go to my default and call the manager over the intercom. She keeps screaming. The manager gets there and I try to explain the situation to him while she's still squawking. More racial slurs the entire time. He tries 3 or 4 times to talk her down. Angry old lady just keeps screaming for a white person to get her food instead of this, well, you can imagine. Y'all should probably know that my manager at this time was a big old Samoan dude. To his credit, he tried to talk her down 2 or 3 times. She kept crowing, and then he shut her down. Ma'am, you are not allowed to shop here right now. Please leave the premises. Guess what? She kept screaming slurs, making demands. At this point, the other customers are talking shit to her. I'm currently trying to get them to shut up politely, while my store manager is just insisting that the angry old lady don't get to shop here anymore today. Angry old lady eventually gives up and storms out, never shutting up. She's gonna sue us all. We're all going to be fired, all the cuss words, the works. She's also very insistent that her son is going to make us pay or kill us all. As she's leaving, I'm struck by inspiration. You see, I do customer service based on a strict script. Part of that script is the parting sentiment. You always let the customer know how much you appreciate them shopping with us. So, as my very large Samoan boss is using his mask to gently herd the angry old lady out of the store, I shout at the top of my lungs, "Thank you for shopping at this company. Please come again." I'm not going to lie to you and say everyone clapped, but I got some very good laughs from the customers watching this whole ordeal. As a failed stand-up comedian, I enjoyed it. After she finally left, my boss came up to me. "God damn it, punk thug. When you said that it was all I could do and not to laugh. Back to work and clear this lane." So we did. I had some customers compliment me on how I handled the situation, which is nice. More importantly, my coworkers, who I deeply care about, also showed me their appreciation. That means a lot to me. So, that was very nice. All in all, if that had been the end of the story, I would have posted this in March 2020. But Part 2. The Sun. Same day, about 6 or 7 hours later, 9 p.m.-ish. The store is still open, but the department is long since closed. Part of my duties is finishing up the cleanup at the end of the night. At this particular moment, I was scrubbing the floors down by the sandwich area. Mop water all over the floor, hitting it with a deck brush so I can squeegee it into the floor sink. I even had one earbud in. I was listening to the Time Suck episode about Genghis Khan. I know that because it is in the court record. You! I look up. I see a very angry young man. Y'all should know I'm 6'3" but skinny as fuck, and I have never fought a day in my life. This gentleman easily has 2 inches on me. Looked like he lived at the gym and had several what I can only describe as very prominent, intimidating tattoos showing on both his face and arms.
Are you the motherfucker that's disrespecting my mother?
There's really no way to accurately express our conversation at this point. He's leaning up against our 5-feet sandwich bar counter looking like death incarnate, going to break through the plexiglass. I'm confused at first, then terrified that this monster is angry at me once I realize what is happening. I do remember the last thing he said.
You're getting beat.
Then he goes over to the sandwich bar check stand and vaults over it into the back counter area. You remember how I said I was cleaning the floor? Fast fact about the tile that's used in deli-type areas, it gets very slick. We wear special shoes and still have problems if the floor is covered with water. I had not squeegeed any of the water from the area he landed in, so while I'm still thinking about using my deck brush as a hammer to defend myself, he lands and does a comical slide fall. He hits hard. Feet slide out immediately upon contact, and he ends up landing on his head. Like Looney Tune levels of impact. The other employees at the front check stands have noticed the commotion and come over by then. What am I doing at this point? Well, I've seen the video. There's a good 30 seconds of me standing with a stiff bristle brush over my shoulder like I'm going to blacksmith this guy who's lying on the floor in front of me motionless. And there's blood. Blood in a pool of soapy water on an already red tile floor is kind of weird looking. I don't even like thinking about it now. One of my co-workers is already on the phone with the police and informs them they're going to need an ambulance as well. 911 tells us not to touch him, and they're there within 3 minutes. The professionals deal with everything then. Paramedics deal with Angry Boy, and I end up talking to the police for the rest of my shift. I didn't even have to finish the floors and still got an hour's overtime. Part 3. The Lawyers. This bit of the story is the longest period of time with the shortest amount of interesting stuff. As for myself personally, well, I'm union. This all happened at work, and I needed to testify for it. I ended up getting 3 days off and fully paid for maybe 6 hours of deposition and maybe 15 minutes in a courtroom. My favorite points of this part of the whole ordeal: 1, I ended up going downtown and talking to an assistant district attorney, I guess, who stressed how to just say, "I don't know," if I was asked about the specifics of the conversations I had, and then they would legally lead me into expressing the conversation. Then her boss comes in and gets really pissy because I kept telling him, "I don't know." He and I did not get along. It might have been my fault, but we shouted at each other a lot. His office sent me a Christmas card, though, so... 2. Turns out the son not only had multiple warrants in California, but he had several warrants in other states. The boss district attorney bitched about how this made his job harder. 3. When the angry old lady was on the stand, she was exactly how I remembered her standing in line. She cussed every 5th word. Every other time she cussed it was racial, and she had nothing but disdain for the entire process of law. She's a damn dirty bitch, but I can respect that. Other than the racism, that is. So yeah, that was my March 2020. I hope you all enjoyed my shameless play for meaningless internet points. Much love. Be kind to each other. 2. A little bit of background is in order here. I grew up in a very abusive household, berating, gaslighting, emotional blackmailing, hitting, screaming. Were all on a daily basis for the first 23 years of my life, until I finally saved up enough money and mustered enough courage to leave that hellhole of a place. I have moved to a different town, about 2 hours by train, found myself a small apartment and a quiet job as an office assistant. I have also started therapy as soon as I settled in to become more of a person instead of a big pile of poo. My parents made me believe I was. Now, unpacking all the baggage wasn't easy, and in the first 2 years of therapy I was a wreck. High functioning, but still a wreck. I was diagnosed with CPTSD, depression, anxiety, and a couple of other things on top. I was fortunate enough to have such understanding colleagues, and at least didn't have to worry about my job or income on top of everything. With that out of the way, let's get to the actual encounter. It was about 10 months after my move, one Saturday after a really long crying episode. I went to the fridge to find out it was empty, save for one lone pickle in a jar, and I needed to go get some groceries, if I don't want to live on crackers and pickle water. I totally wasn't in any shape to go anywhere where there might be other people, but it was my fault for postponing the trip for so long. So I have just pushed myself to get dressed, brushed my teeth and hair, grabbed a shopping basket, and go to the nearest supermarket, which was incidentally the same chain I was working in part and full time when I was still living with my parents in the other town, which really wasn't surprising since the chain is in like every bigger town. So, I walk into the shop, already shaking and anxious and trying not to attract any attention to myself whatsoever. I grab a bit of produce, a carton of milk, several packets of ham, and cheese, some yogurt. I'm almost done, just a bag of sugar, some pasta and ketchup, and I can bolt to the register, I'm telling myself, when someone taps me on the shoulder and I'm immediately triggered, meaning most of my systems shut down in order not to do something stupid. I slowly turn around to see an angry-looking woman that could be my mother, which is acting as another trigger, nervously tapping her foot on the floor. Can I help you? I manage to get out through the fog because my polite system stays operational at all times.
About time you noticed me. I've been talking to you for about 3 damn minutes by now. Where is that coffee that's supposed to be on sale?
It takes me a while to process what she's saying and formulate an answer. I don't know. I don't drink coffee.
What do you mean you don't drink coffee? I didn't ask you to drink it, you dimwit. I asked you where I can buy it.
At this point, the lady is practically screaming at me, at which point I start to back away from her, and then everything goes blank. The next thing I knew, I was staring at a hospital ceiling with a throbbing pain in the back of my head, and a nurse leaning over me asking how I'm feeling, to which I'm asking her what day and time it is, and what the hell happened. She frowns and says, "It's Sunday, 8 p.m., and apparently you hit that shelf pretty hard." I just let myself fall asleep again because I seriously wasn't in any shape to think straight at that point. On Monday, my therapist came, helped me call my workplace since I definitely wasn't coming back to work for a couple of days. Then 2 police officers came in to take my testimony and ask if I want to press charges, which has taken me aback. Like, me suing someone? For what? Apparently, after I started backing away from the woman, I shut down for good and started frantically peddling her with "please not hurt me," while she continued to scream and close in on me. Until I could not step back any further, at which point she got so upset she grabbed my shirt and yanked me to her to be close to my face, to which I have instinctively reacted by pushing her away with as much force as I could. Since she didn't expect retaliation, she lost her balance, let go of my shirt, and we both went backwards. She landed on the tile floor, bruising her butt, while I hit the shelf behind me head first. The security guard and one of the employees got there in about the same moment, so they saw us fight and fall. The security guy went to help the Karen, still screaming at the top of her lungs that she wants me fired for being rude, while I was curled up on the floor, hands around my bleeding head, crying and promising, "I'll be good, just don't hurt me anymore." Anyway, police and paramedics came. Officers scooped up Karen after seeing the camera footage, while paramedics scooped me up and got me to the hospital with a fine brain concussion. It has turned out that the Karen was originally from the same town as me and saw me working at the supermarket there regularly. So when she happened to be in a different town, it didn't occur to her that I'm not working in that particular store. And since she was somehow acquainted with my mother, who most likely told her what a piece of crap she thinks I am, she treated me accordingly. Or at least, that's my conclusion. To this day, I'm not aware of any other interaction between us than this. I ended up pressing charges after consulting my therapist. I think Karen got charged with assault, destroying property, and something I don't really remember, and apparently didn't bother writing down and ended up in jail for 2 years, since I've got a head injury, and my lawyer didn't miss the opportunity to throw in my mental health state as well. I didn't set foot in that supermarket for at least a year afterwards. Just bought a new shopping basket and went elsewhere. When I eventually did go back, I ran into that employee that was there during the incident, and they told me a couple of details the police and doctors omitted, like the part where I was crying and begging on the floor. I've had a couple more encounters with Karens after that in various places, but by that time I was fortunately way better off mentally, and never broke down like that again in public. Which is also why I'm able to write about this now, at least anonymously, like this. 3. I was recently reminded to share a few funny moments from the past year. Story number 1. Last year, I, a 26-year-old female, was a PA student on my pediatrics rotation, and our office team decided to go out to a small sushi shop for a late lunch break at 2 p.m. Our medical assistant was wearing hot pink scrubs, my classmate was wearing teal scrubs, and I was wearing black scrubs with my stethoscope stuffed into my front pocket. Of note, our servers that day appeared to be mid-20s, wearing the store uniform of a white undershirt, black t-shirt, and black pants or jeans. When we came in, the restaurant was empty, as the lunch rush had passed, so we were seated in the first booth in front of the door. Towards the end of our meal, a duo of dudes in their mid-20s came in and sat in the booth right next to us, passing by us on their way in. When we were ready to leave, I got up to go wash my hands. As I walked past their booth, dude number 1 stopped me to ask, "Excuse me, miss, I ordered the edamame a while ago, but it hasn't come out yet. Can you check to see if it's still coming out?" I initially thought he was addressing a server in the room, but I did a quick look around to see there were no servers in sight, and I realized he was talking to me. I stopped, turned to them, and smiled, saying, "Sorry, I don't work here." I watched as dude number 1 looked at my face, then my scrubs, then my stethoscope. His facial expression simultaneously mirrored with visible confusion, followed by flushed red ears. I kept walking towards the bathroom, and heard dude number 2 goblin cackling at dude number 1 saying, "Bro, she's a nurse." Dude number 1 responded to him by muttering, "Dude, I didn't know." After I came back out and walked towards my booth, the duo stopped me again and apologized profusely, to which I told them it was no biggie, and I hoped they got their edamame soon. When we left, I told my team what happened, and we all got a good chuckle out of it. Story number 2 was a few weeks ago. I was on a time crunch with about 2 hours to find a few farewell gifts for some colleagues. I was dressed for the mission with a black crop top, black leggings, and Avengers-themed Crocs. Ended up at a B&N an hour before closing to look for the perfect book for one of my colleagues who loves reading. I haven't been to a B&N in a few years, so I was very lost, but managed to find a good book after scouring the shelves for a hot minute. I called my boyfriend to tell him I was on the way home soon, and that I was speedwalking through the register to check out before the store closes. Halfway to the register, in mid-phone conversation, I heard a guy saying, "Excuse me." I ignored it initially, but then I saw there was no one else around the store. I didn't want to leave him hanging, so I turned around, and the guy, mid-30s again, said, "Excuse me, I've been looking for..." Didn't hear what he was saying, "And you guys keep moving stuff around, and I can't find it." I looked at him, then my phone, then down at my clothes, to make sure I wasn't wearing the store uniform, then back at him. This time I was visibly confused, saying, "Sorry man, I don't work here?" He responded with an attitude saying, "What? Well, can you help me find it anyway or not?" I said, "Nope. Got lost here myself, bye." His face looked equally confused and offended, and it was glorious. 4. It has been eating at me for days. and I hope this lady I dealt with hears this post. For context, I work at a video game store, and there are moments where we can't do returns on certain items, like if a game system gets accidentally damaged, or if you open a new game copy and did not like the game. Sorry, we cannot do the return for said items. In short, we, the employees, are just doing what our bosses are telling us to do. But this right here took the absolute cake for me. A couple of weeks back, I was working my usual opening shift. About 2 to 3 hours in, everything was running smoothly and calmly, until a woman with what I'm assuming was her husband and 2 kids, both boy and girl. I do my usual greetings, and before I could ask how their day is or anything, the woman cut me off demanding I do a refund on a video game she bought. The game was still sealed and everything, but she did not have a receipt. She did not pay with card. She did not have an account with us. She then went on a tangent about how she knows the owner, and that they did it a few times for her and everything, and she's been shopping at our stores for years. Funny, because I've never seen this woman nor her husband and kids in all my years of working here. And this is a corporate retail chain. Like, ma'am, what do you want me to do? I cannot process this return without any form of verification, hence the receipt or the account she doesn't freaking have. She was basically not taking no for an answer, and of course her husband tried to intimidate me, with a child in his arms, really. I'm sorry, I'm not one to judge, but if I was his kid, I'd be very embarrassed. She was still pissed and went about browsing the store. I left it as it is, and if they steal anything out of spite too, that's fine. Whatever, her son ended up picking up a game copy, and he was very nice and apologized for his parents' behavior. I went ahead ringing him up and telling him it's all right, and for him to have a good and better day. As he was about to walk out, she saw that he had no bag to carry his game out, because we actually ran out and all we had were $5 tote bags. She marched right back in and demanded I give her a free tote bag because of the inconvenience I gave her for not doing the return. Ma'am, I hope that kid is okay, he deserves better. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention that holiday returns were officially over. It ended back on January 15th, and of course this woman tried to do a return on February 10th. And even if the game was stole or bought from another retail store, it's not my concern. I just do what my bosses tell me. And I will say this too, I don't get paid enough to care. 5. So this is more of an indirect I don't work here ladies story. Side note, I tend to cuss a lot in my speech, and I don't even realize that most of the time, but anyway, now to the story. So, for a little bit of background, I work as a security officer and guard. I had just gotten off my shift, and I was still in my work clothes when I decided to go to a certain safe store on the way home to drop off some bottles and cans and pick up some orange juice. As I was going into the store, I noticed a friend of a friend standing by the entrance. I decided to talk to him for a little bit, and then I entered the store. A couple of minutes go by, and I'm doing my shopping, when all of a sudden the manager walks up to me and starts yelling at me. "Are you the one that was screaming and cussing out that one dude in the front?" I sit there confused with a dumb look on my face for a couple of seconds, and then I realize, when I was talking to my friend there, that a lady was going to walk by and turned around, and I didn't think twice about it, and she was referring to me and my friend. I told her, no, I was talking to my friend outside, but I wasn't screaming or yelling. My friend and another employee are now standing next to the manager looking as confused as I am. My friend says, "We were just having a conversation, so I'm not sure what you're talking about." The manager says in response, "Okay, well, some lady just reported that the store security guard and a homeless person were just screaming and cussing each other out in front of the store, and that she was scared for her life." My friend wasn't homeless, he just kind of looked homeless. I responded with, "We were just having a conversation, maybe we were a little loud, but I wouldn't say we were yelling." "Yeah." The manager responds with, "Okay, she did seem kind of like she was exaggerating, but anyway, I'm going to try to find out what's going on." Then the manager walks away. The other employee asks us, "Were you cussing by chance?" "No." "Shit, I don't know." "You just said shit."
I know what happened. We have a regular customer that comes in that is very against cussing.
It's apparently for religious reasons. I just start dying laughing because all this confusion was down to the way I talk. Although my friend and the employee were not as amused, but they blew it off anyway. After that, I finished my shopping and went home. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Adventures in Fast Food and Retail, episode 167. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Please do poke the like button before you go, it helps the channel out greatly. And share the video around with friends and family, and every guy you encounter called Kyle. Okay, let's see. I don't think there's any shout-outs today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, and I'm afraid this is going to cause great division in the community. It relates to the sushi mentioned in one of our stories today, and that's quite simply, cream cheese on sushi, how do you feel about it, and why do you agree that it's perfectly fine? Or maybe you're one of those strange people that thinks it's wrong. I mean, stick whatever you like in sushi and shove it in your mouth, you know, you're the one that's eating it. Personally, I quite like it. Please dip your answers in some soy sauce and pop them in a comment below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.